What's up, everybody? Welcome to the MSP Water Cooler with your hosts, Skofi and Robert Gillette. Say hi, Robert.
I'm muted. What's going on?
Hey, there he is. Happy Wednesday. I hope you all are doing well. If you're watching us on LinkedIn, say hi in the chat. If you're watching us on YouTube, say hi there too, though I need to be better about monitoring such things. If you're new to the MSP Water Cooler, the first 10 minutes are for you to join Robert and I on screen. So right here where you see our faces, yours could be here also. And ask us something to stump us ideally. We want your toughest MSP, IT, business, sales, and growth questions. If you're shy and timid, I don't know why you're friends with us, but you don't have to join us on screen. You can also drop your question in the comments. We'll drag it on screen and watch us sweat with your toughest sales scenarios, business development questions, growth challenges, or anything that you'd just like to see us kind of discuss. So, Robert, how have you been?
I've been good. Honestly, it's been a while since I've had a good round to stump the chump. So I'd love for someone to come on today and whack me across the face with their hardest sales scenario or objection so that I could try and dance for you. That would be fun. But other than that, I'm great, man. I'm great.
Excellent. I'm
You
glad
doing
you're
all right?
doing good.
We
I'm
talked
good.
earlier about your hat choice, which,
Listen,
it's good,
this
man.
is the year. This is the year where my community and network gets to know sides of Skofi they never knew before. For one, they
Okay.
didn't know my nickname from college, Skofi.
Skofi.
Welcome to a big part of my life. I've been called Skofi by countless folks, and now the professional world gets to know me as Skofi also. So that's one. Also, my deep love for apparel upon the sconce of one's body. Sconce being head.
I've never heard a head referred to as a sconce before, so this is unique. I'm learning all kinds of things today.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I also have a background in Shakespeare, so we can call it a pate if you want. Call it a crown if you want. Yes, and I have a collection of hats, and this is one of them.
Okay.
And life is too short to not wear things that you enjoy. I think.
I'd agree. I mean, life is too short for most things that you get grumpy about. So,
Right.
I'm happy with that.
So if we don't have anybody joining us right now on screen with a tough question, that is fine, because I've got questions for you, Robert, and you have questions for me. So we can kind of just swap questions. And while you guys are watching us with these questions, if you want to comment or give us a scenario or a question, please do. All right, here's a question for you, Robert.
Yeah, man.
I am an MSP, or let's say I'm an MSP business owner. Let's say I'm at 5 million in revenue. Okay. And I have tried a bunch of stuff to find new business. I've outsourced cold calls. I have paid a digital ad agency. I've invested in SEO. I've written blog posts and white papers. I've used AI to generate email addresses for me. I've done drip campaigns and newsletters. And I've hired salespeople, and I just don't seem to close any new business. And now I'm at a level where at least once a year, I wave goodbye to a significant client. All right, so this is my status quo that I live in. I'm starting to feel like marketing specifically, doesn't work. Marketing is broken. What do you tell me as an MSP business owner? Does marketing work? Should I spend dollars on these things?
Oh man, that's first of all, I got a lot of empathy for you, hypothetical MSP owner, because that's a tough spot to be in, and it's not abnormal. So the good news is that it's a big club with lots of members. The bad news is that is not a fun club to be in. So, my favorite way to answer the question, does marketing work, is with a follow-up question: work at what? And so that's one of the things that I think is really tough about marketing, and why marketing gets such a bad rap. is so many people expect something out of marketing that's just unrealistic and unreasonable. And so I would say that it is 100% possible to throw money at marketing, the big M marketing, and get back new client. I'm not going to say revenue, but new client something. I think what most people are unprepared for is to spend the amount of money required in this space to do that well. And so there's this tension is that I don't think it's possible to throw money at marketing and have it do sales for you. Which is what a lot of people seem to think is going to happen, that I can throw money at marketing and it will do marketing and sales. I think that's unrealistic and a real tough pill to swallow. So those are the two questions. Is I guess maybe that's a big question: is does marketing work at what?
Yeah.
So
okay, so good, so good. First of all, I was trying to find it somewhere. I have the 2024 Service Leadership Report on industry metrics for sales and customer acquisition and service delivery and all of that. It's very fascinating to dig into the data. And I was going to say the actual number, but I don't have
you
it in
make
front
it
of me.
up.
I'm going to make
great
it up.
content. People will correct you in the comments. Will get lots of engagement.
Oh, yeah. So the average acquisition cost for a mature MSP in our industry, best in class, is $1 bajillion. No, it was something staggeringly high. It was like 30 to 50K if you were medium, and it was slightly lower if you were best in class. And that's to acquire one customer, you should be prepared to spend on marketing, sales, and business development. So the whole ball of wax, somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000. If I'm saying that wrong, someone correct me. But it was,
I mean, at what revenue size? But yeah.
So your $500 a month Google ad that you're spending, you are putting a lot of pressure on that little boy.
Yeah. And again, it's one of those things that is really tough because marketing is such a broad term and we don't know what to expect out of it. And it's tough because lots of marketing people make lots of promises and some of them they can keep and some of them they can't. And some of the time it's based on chance. Some of it's not. Like I could absolutely get you 100 leads really easy by promising a free Ferrari if you come take a meeting with me, but like that's not going to be a good way to get new clients.
Yeah.
And if you could even do that, your MSP is going to really struggle in the long term. So again, marketing, does it work at what? How are you using it? It's just a tool, man. So is the tool doing what you want and are you using it correctly?
I have a question. I'm pretty active on Facebook and LinkedIn. Those are my primary social channels. I am present on other places in a very passive capacity, but Facebook specifically, I myself, not a target for managed services, but I get served digital ads, Facebook ads all the time, sometimes from friends of mine who own MSPs. I see your digital ads, guys. And I don't know why you're sending them, why the algorithm thinks I am your customer. Actually, I do think I know. But Robert, are you seeing any of these? And do you ever see any that you're like, oh, I like this, I think this might work, versus do you ever cringe at some of the stuff you see?
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things that's always just a big struggle for me is that I have both contempt and compassion for things like retargeted ads.
Yeah.
Like I'll visit a website or something, or I'll check out an MSP or whatever. I do my market research too, and I'm trying to, get prospects. And then I'll see retargeted ads for MSPs I visited, and I'm like, no, your money, it's so going away. And I wonder how many times, I mean, I worked for an MSP and maybe we were just bad at it, but I saw the leads and I saw what we spent on marketing. And, this is a 10 to $30 million MSP while I was there. And just the amount of money that went to people who were just looking up our information to try and sell us things was staggering.
That's right. Yeah, so I have a similar feeling in my gut when I see a digital ad from either someone in the industry. It's even amplified when I know the individual or I know the company, I'm familiar with them, like your precious dollars. And I think a lot of it loops back to, well, does marketing work at what? Like you said.
Yeah.
I understand your frustration, IT business owner, because you are the business owner. And the only reason you spend $1 when in sales and marketing is the expectation or hope, more hope than expectation, that I'll at least get that $1 back. And ideally, you'll get $2. I spend $1, I get 2.
Yeah.
And if an MSP could find that formula, I spend $1, I get 2, they would spend all the dollars to get $2 every
Absolutely.
$1. But what's frustrating is that's not their experience typically. I spend $1 here and I get nothing. So I'll spend it again. And then my agency is saying, I'm not spending enough. So I'm going to spend $10. And now I'm going to spend $100. And you can only do that so long before you start realizing, am I throwing this into a money pit? What am I missing? Because I'm looking around at everyone in the industry saying, oh, you got to invest in sales and marketing if you're going to grow. What am I doing wrong? So Robert, what am I doing wrong?
If I'm God, if I know. That's the. I mean, I spend money on LinkedIn ads too. Like we're spending money on LinkedIn ads. Good to see you, Ron. So I want to be like, it's not that this stuff, I can't say it doesn't work, and I don't want to give marketers a bad name, and I'm not trying to say that ads are inherently bad. I've clicked on stuff. I've clicked on ads and bought stuff and been totally happy. And it's just, I think that what happens is what you mentioned earlier, which is, that $500 social spend is carrying a lot of expectations.
That's right.
And so while I do think marketing is valuable, branding is important, I'd even go so far as to say that marketing outreach like ads and lead magnets and landing pages and SEO are an incredibly valuable part of any MSP's growth. But we need to be careful and be really sure in what order that goes and what can be expected when we spend that money. And what's realistic about getting, like, what does a return on investment really look like? And here's the thing: if I put up a billboard with your MSP's logo on it, how do you calculate return on investment? I know an MSP up in New York who gets an incredible amount of value from the fact that for the past 40 years, people have been seeing their trucks drive around with a wrapper on them and their logo and their name and their local IT company in a small rural community. How do you calculate the ROI on that? I don't know.
Yeah.
And so to put the whole burden of your growth on that kind of a calculation, it's just really unfair. But what are you seeing, buddy? I mean, this is not your first barbecue either.
I have so many thoughts, but I just wanted to call out, Ron, we're glad you're here. Feel free to use the StreamYard link if you want to pop in and ask us a tough question for this week. I'm so glad that you're here. I'll catch you up real fast, Ron. We're talking about marketing. The oversimplified question we're wrestling with is, in the MSP space specifically, in the IT services industry, does quote unquote marketing work? And so this is some of the rabbit trails Robert and I have been running down. So imagine with me, Robert, we decided we want to be fishermen one day, you and I. And as to me, that is kind of a comical thing in my head, you and me in a boat. I don't know why. But I would enjoy it. Do you do a lot of fishing? Have you ever gone fishing, Robert?
Oh yeah.
All right. So we maybe be fine. We're not just a couple of city kids who've
never asked me if I've caught anything, but yes, I have been fishing.
All right. Well, then this analogy maybe hopefully will resonate. If you are a fisherman, you measure the success of your vocation in fish caught, presumably. Yes. The right fish caught, perhaps, because there's some fish that a fisherman would rather not catch, and there's others that they aspire to catch. Now, if you do any research or if you've done any fishing, there are a myriad of ways to get a creature beneath the waves to join you in the boat. Okay?
That's a kind way of saying murder, but okay, sure. Join you in the boat.
Yes. some are more effective than others, and some are more effective at different times of year under different conditions than others, and some are more effective on certain types of species than others. And I feel like fishing and marketing have a lot of parallels. I see a lot of IT providers walking through the bait shop, and they're asking the guy behind the counter, and mind you, these guys are engineers. They're not necessarily fishermen. They're technicians, not necessarily salespeople. So they asked the guy behind the counter, "What's your most popular lure?" Right? And they're like, "SEO." And they go to a different bait shop and they ask the same question, and they say, "Email drip campaigns." And they go down to the next bait shop and they say, "What's your best lure?" And they say, "Cold calling." And so what do? They buy a lure from here, some bait from there, and something else from the other place, and they go out in the boat. And what they've done is they've gone into the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and they've taken all three things, or maybe one at a time, and they've chucked them over the side. And they're like, "All right, fish, come to my boat." And there's so much nuance and that is missing. They've put a lot of expectation on the lure, but they're missing some major pieces of the equation when it comes to why a fish bites, which fish bite, and which fish you even want to catch, and where you go to catch them. And I feel like this is what I see MSPs doing. They're going into bait shops. They're getting a collection of shiny things that they think fish want, chuck them over the side, and they get pissed off and say, "Well, clearly fishing doesn't work. Marketing doesn't work."
Well, and I hate to go too many stops down the metaphor bus on this one, but I completely agree with you, and I love the analogy because there is the fishing part of it, and you said the word vocation. There's lots of people that go fishing for fun, and they don't have to catch anything, and they're fine. And if that's how you run your IT business, if this is an aspirational business / hobby for you, then ignore everything we're saying. That's fine. But like if fishing is your business, you have to get the fish into the boat. And then you have to try and find a way to turn that into money for your family. And that's the sales part of it. So like, again, marketing is marketing, sales is sales. And there's a reason why I tried to do this, by the way. I tried to put marketing people once on a quota. And let me tell you the futility of it's like trying to get cats to join you in the scientific process. It just was like, it's just not how marketing is. That's not what it does. It's not what it's for. And so while I do agree that you should have an ROI calculation and you should have accountability, it's important to understand there's a distinction between marketing and sales. And a lot of people say, like, "Well, I spent a bunch of money on marketing, but I didn't get any revenue." And I go, "Well, that's cool, but who was in the middle? There's that whole middle ground where people know about you and pay attention to you, which is marketing. But then the giving you money part is the sales part. And that's not really marketing's problem."
Yeah, that goes back to the expectation side of things, right? There's the bait, and then there's the fisherman. So you drop a shiny bait over the side, you cast it with your rod, and when the bait has done its job, the fish catches attention and it will strike at the lure. Okay. But a fisherman can easily lose a fish if they fail to set the hook, if they fail to know how to pull the fish into the boat and snap the line. There's between the lure and the boat, there's usually 20 to sometimes 100 feet of opportunity for that fish to jump off the lure. So like, if it's not attached to a pole and the pole is not in the hands of a skilled fisherman, it's not a surprise when, man, I'm getting all this traffic to my website. I'm getting all of these people that are seeing my social content and none of it's converting into sales. It was like, well, that was never the bait's job.
Yeah. I mean, heck, the fish are even jumping into the boat. They're filling out all these forms, and that's great. It's still not the whole picture. So again, to really just, that would be the point I'm trying to make, is like, when you ask that question of marketing, does it or does it not work at what? What are you trying to achieve with the money you spend, and what's reasonable to expect from that?
We have a gentleman in the studio who is backstage. Jeff, I see you there. Before I bring you on, is your camera and mic working? Give me a thumbs up when your camera's on, and we'll drag your butt on screen.
Yeah.
There
We
he
try not
is.
to let in too many AI bots.
The man, the myth, the legend, Jeff Sumner. Tech Guides, Painless Technology. How are things in Miami right now, my sir?
It's gonna rain. It's looking dark. You probably can't tell.
No, I see the cloud.
I
see the clouds. I mean, clouds in paradise still are paradise, but whatever. So, Jeff, have you been following along with the conversation so far, or are you just now popping in?
Having difficulties with StreamYard.
Well, sorry to hear that. We've been talking about marketing and why marketing.
Not good.
The generic question was for MSPs: does marketing work?
Yes, I just turned off my camera to see you were freezing. I'm seeing for whatever reason StreamYard gives me problems. I'm going to see if you freeze again, and if not, if so, I might have to do something else.
Well, you are on your phone, my man.
No, but I had the same problem on my computer. So.
Oh well, I don't know what it is. Maybe Paradise has bad Wi-Fi.
Yeah. So
there's got to be a trade-off somewhere.
Yes, that was my question about the social media marketing, social marketing, whatever it is however you call it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And I guess a whole nother question about that is do emails, newsletters work? Because I don't think those things work at all. But
okay, I have a controversial take on email. Okay, I don't know if it's controversial or not, but I think in our lifetime, email as we know it is going to go the way of the pigeon. With the pigeon, carrier pigeon. Yeah,
the carrier pigeon, passenger pigeon.
We don't send messages by carrier pigeon anymore. And I think in our lifetime, before my grandkids are born, email as we know it will become an archaic thing of the past. Because I believe your newsletter, I believe your unsolicited email message is incapacitating the value of email as a communication tool more and more and more.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts? Discuss.
Yeah, no, I don't know if it's going to go away because no one uses pigeon carriers anymore at all. But I still get lots of junk mail in like my physical mail, and so I don't personally think it's going to go away. But I do think it's important to recognize that the dynamics of what you can expect from it has changed dramatically. I get at least 5. No, I'm thinking now it's 6 newsletters that I don't open. They come every day, and I have zero intention of unsubscribing. I read the headline, and then I delete it, and that's good enough for me. I have others that I read, but I've got all my broadcast back turned off. So it looks to them like I'm completely unengaged because I don't load the images. I don't click on the links, but I gather the information. I find it valuable. So for those people, am I is it working? Working at what?
Right. Yeah. So what is the expectation of it? We have Ron in the back room as well. I'm going to drag his butt over here also.
Good to see you, Ron.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? I had to. You're driving me nuts with this topic. First of all, I'm getting ready for ScaleCon, so I'm in So I'm in this mode, but I'll get cleaned up. I'm not like Newton; he's all cleaned up and ready to go. But this topic just sort of struck me because I have spent and Rob, you were really breaking it down, sales and marketing. I found out the hard way, the difference between them. And because I went to a place that was almost labeled marketing and found out that I didn't know how to sell anything. I didn't know what that process was like. I didn't even have a process. I didn't even know you're supposed to have a process. So I uniquely went into a world where I achieved great success because I had a stellar lure, let's say, and this lure would bring leads in, calling for me 1 day a week at a rate of 2, maybe 3 a day. So I only had her a quarter time. So could you imagine getting 8 to 10 qualified leads and going, I don't know, aren't they supposed to just land? So I went through that whole world, right?
Oof.
And so we could talk hours on this, right? Because you guys have been there and I've done it. And so when I say I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, that was on the marketing, and then found out, wow, then there's sales involved in this. So then I had to really dive deeper into what that was and that journey. And then that was another rabbit hole. At the same time, these leads are coming in, and then there's pressure to make things happen, right? So I don't want to take up too much time. What I did want to say is I doubled down. Instead of getting that person calling for me one day a week, I got her to call every day. And so this way I got to fish in the pond more. And then I figured out, oh, that's a little easier to gap some fish on this side of the pond. I'm over here doing this. Maybe I do this. And so I figured out a process. And that only happened by doubling down and investing is the short.
That sounds a little bit similar to something you said last week, Robert. I think it was you that said this, do something always. That was you, right?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Consistent actions over time, for sure. Yep.
Well, I say process over outcomes. That's one of the things we preach at the MSP Growth OS is process over outcomes.
Yeah.
That's absolutely insightful, Ron. I very much appreciate it. To kind of bring it back to Jeff's question about does newsletters work? I don't know why this quarter I'm big into analogies, but I've got another one for you that's been percolating for a long time. In fact, a dear friend of mine said I should write a book about this. I don't know. He's probably blowing smoke up my ass, but imagine your go-to market motion as an MSP is like an amphibious assault. Any World War II buffs here, right? Familiar with the Normandy invasion, perhaps, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Imagine with me that your go-to market motion is an amphibious assault, and success is achieved when you've captured the beach. You've stormed the beach and you've routed the enemy. Okay. Now, if you look at the Normandy invasion, for example, just for a second, appreciate the tremendous resource and coordination and effort that was required for that operation to be arguably successful. And it wasn't just a Marine with a gun stepping off a boat. It wasn't just a battleship in the bay. It wasn't a tank. It wasn't a bomber. It was a coordinated effort across a multidisciplined coalition of teams with incredible communication and a lot of forethought and strategy. And if your go-to market motion is like this, and you're like, okay, is there a place for email campaigns in my amphibious assault? Yeah, but it's not going to capture the beach. Okay. I envision a lot of marketing efforts in this analogy, kind of like your artillery and your weapons on the boats and the bombers. And they do a lot to prepare for the invasion, to prepare for the boots on the ground. But that battleship in the bay can't roll up the beach and capture a key position, right? It's going to require boots on the ground at some point. So a lot of MSPs make the mistake, I believe. They stare at that beach and they're like, all right, I've got a canoe and a BB gun. Wish me luck. And they go to storm the beach and they're like, oh, well, clearly amphibious assaults don't work. Well, you're taking one component of a multi-channel, multi-discipline effort, and you're gauging the success of it by the tactic rather than the coordinated use of all the tactics. Now, I just told Jeff earlier, before you hopped on, Ron, that I think email as we know it is going to die within our lifetime, maybe within this next decade, or at least it's going to change dramatically.
I agree.
I send emails. I do send emails. But I send them more. We lost Jeff and Jeff came right back. I use emails more as a communication tool with existing partners, existing customers, less so for, net
Outreach.
new, cold outreach, that kind of thing. I don't know if that analogy resonates with anyone, but that's like how I've rationalized a lot of the experiences I've seen in the MSP space.
That's how I'm doing. Just targeted though. It's targeted to, like, right now I'm working on a closed loss from years ago from all that money I spent, and I'm taking a loss to close loss, and we have a targeted campaign towards them that involves a little piece of email. But it, yeah, you're not going to
a little
win that.
piece.
Yeah,
What are the
little
other
piece.
pieces?
Well, the other piece is web calling. Right now, that's what I'm working at right now. A little bit of the building up that script. I'm working on the campaign right now with somebody special. So yeah, it's a layer, but I don't use email. We've never used email unless it was already a contact. We already had some initial contact with them. I don't think just sending that junk. How many do I get a day? It's endless. It's just, so I believe too, it's going to go away. I don't trust it only with the people that I work with. So you can't really go through all of them and try to think that is going to win the war, right? Yeah, you're going to get one soldier with
so
that.
I think I'm with you, Jeff. Like, I don't think email works in the sense of quote unquote lead generation because there's too much noise out there. That being said, I have been experimenting with some stuff this year that is changing my perspective on a few things. And I'll give you one example. Your LinkedIn inbox probably looks like mine, where every other message is a pitch slap from somebody that just connected with you. Okay. Those, I have always had a sour taste in my mouth. And as a person in business development myself, I've always kind of looked down my nose at folks that are like, man, this is, but then I recently have started experimenting with some LinkedIn automation. Now, caution and disclaimer and a big old asterisk before everything else that comes out of my mouth. I am being incredibly careful and incredibly selective about how I structure my targets and the message that I would dare send.
Yeah.
Okay. Before I would don't hear Skofi said go spin up a Dripify account and spam my ICP. That is not what Skofi said. That is not what Skofi said. But because I am on the receiving end of so much bullshit, I spent some time thinking, like, what's the antithesis to this? Is there a viable way to leverage what everyone else is doing badly and move my message to the top, where it's like something they're going to raise an eyebrow and be like, hey, I'm going to look at that a little bit longer than I was going to look at everything else in my inbox right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm here to tell you that there is a way, and LinkedIn DMs are not the same as email, but like that gut feeling you have when you get a cold pitch slap you didn't ask for, I feel like is really similar to that cold email you didn't ask for. So I think it requires a significant level of effort, understanding who your customer is, and then leveraging the tactic in concert with multiple touch points to make it valuable. If you're just like, loading up the spam cannon and rat-tat-tat-tatting at your customer base, don't be shocked if they're just like ignoring you. That's me preaching.
Preach, but it is the truth. I've lived it. So, if you're looking for that IPC and a quality client, just throwing think of it, your fish analogy, if we're going fishing for bass and we hook some crappy corn and throw it and let it sink to the bottom of the river, we might catch a fish, but I think we're going to get a carp, and that might not be ideally what we're looking for. So messaging is so super important, and where you're messaging. That resonates with me because I went through a world just in the last 5 years of not knowing any of that, and then realizing, wow, if somebody is messaging for me or doing some of those pieces to invade the land, if they're not being done right, you might find out that you could spend some money doing something incorrectly. But then that's the trust and verify and vet your vendors and all that kind of stuff. Whole nother conversation. But
yeah,
it's so
I want to lay in here. Like there's just a important reframe I want to put out here, because this analogy of war and taking the beaches, like a lot of people may misunderstand who's the enemy. Who's the enemy here? Who are we taking the beach from? And it's not our prospect. We're taking we're taking the beach from every other option your prospect has available to them and every other thing that might be grabbing their attention other than the problems you solve. And so it's one of those things that just kind of like is interesting to me is people say like, well, I called a guy and I talked to the right contact and he's definitely a decision maker at a prospect that's great for me, but he's not interested. I'm like, okay, cool. Has anyone ever tried to sell you a Snickers bar when you weren't hungry? Okay, are you never going to be hungry again? Like, so a huge portion of what we're talking about is just timing. It's that fight against entropy, that fight against everything else. And so this is another component to does marketing work at what? It's I've talked to a lot of people that are like, well, I bought 10,000 postcards and I sent them and I didn't get a single lead. And I go, well, okay, that's probably expected, but if you called every single one of those people, is there a chance you'd have a better connection rate than if you never sent them a postcard? Depends on a lot of things, but this starts to be what Skofi is talking about, which is the coordinated attack against everything else. And what I'm kind of talking about, this idea of process over results. What's the process? Are you deploying it thoughtfully and consistently, or are you to have random acts of marketing where you're just like, oh dear God, I need revenue, and so somebody talks you into spending $4,000 on something, and you're like, well, that didn't work. So this is marketing and sales specifically is a process-driven type of business function. Yeah, Ron, what's up?
In this industry, do you think that you get a bunch of MSPs that might stop at that? So there's a process. We have to follow the process. I've seen this go just not long enough. They stop. They don't continue and move forward. Like I said, I didn't just stop. I doubled down. My partner wanted us to stop, right? So then from that experience, and you continue through that, I've used this in many different peer groups and conversations. Through that journey, I had a deal that I signed that was 3 weeks, prepaid, $5,000 a month, 1 year. He was going to try to prepay for 3 years, right? And then I had another deal that took 922 days. And it was part of the marketing from the very beginning of that 922 days. And the same for the one that was 3 weeks. But the one that was 3 weeks, I learned a process over the years that sort of helped steer that quicker, where the other one needed that time, but he always got that trickle email after he was a contact. But more than that, phone call conversations, take him to the airport, help him out with solutions without being a real vendor yet. And then eventually went, you know what, you guys are the ones we want to move forward with. And it ended up being a very large national name that is, we have that vendor on that logo under our belt. But it always says to me, I always remember, man, it could take years or it could take weeks. But the marketing is part of that. You really need the marketing throughout that whole journey. If you just think they're going to come back in 922 days and want to sign, no, it was a lot of other things as well.
Yeah, your
touch points.
So Sam's comment and what you're talking about, Ron, very complimentary. And what I've said this many times before, but what we're talking about is the mental real estate of the customer, right? And, when you say a lot of IT providers quit too soon. So that postcard that Robert was talking about, is it possible that it earned mental real estate with a prospect? It is absolutely possible. If it got to their desk and they held it in their hand and they looked at the face of the person on it and they, is it likely they disregarded it? Highly likely. Is it likely that it just went into the garbage? Possibly. But it is also possible that the physical action of picking up that card and looking at your face and realizing your local IT provider that works with law firms or whatever your niche is, et cetera, that they're like, log that away. Now, mental real estate is incredibly difficult to accrue. It is very easy to lose. So every touch point is an opportunity to earn more mental real estate, which is why it is not any one thing. It is the multi-channel approach of earning mental real estate. So the email campaigns, the cold calls, the networking events, showing up their office, Robert will confirm this. The majority of MSPs that we talk to will tell you that their average time to close is between 60 and 90 days.
Mhm.
Is that your experience?
Yeah, people used to ask me, hey, like, what's your sales cycle? I'd say 1 to 3 months or 1 to 3 years, depending.
Yeah.
You know?
So you're not,
Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah.
So you're not Domino's. Domino's this coming weekend, if you are on Domino's email chain, right, you will probably get sent a weekend football coupon, right? And Domino's will flood that out to literally millions of email addresses. And they are basically banking on enough people saying, yeah, I'm going to get Domino's this weekend. And they've done it enough. And they have such a transactional product that they can pretty well predict that when I send this coupon, it will generate X revenue. Their average time to close is probably minutes, where yours is 60 to 90 days and longer. And you do not have a Domino's budget.
Well, yeah, I think one of the issues that you have with the time to close is we shoot ourselves in the foot, right? You've got to make everything as frictionless as possible.
Yeah.
That starts from, I'm a big fan of giving a price right in the meeting. I can figure things out, been doing it long enough that they say, how much is this going to cost me? I say, this is a ballpark, but it's pretty small. This is like Fenway ballpark, right? And then I give them a number. And so then we can decide if we're going to move on. So that's one side of friction. Then the next side is how long does it take you to get that proposal out? Okay. Then it's how easy is your MSA and your terms and conditions? How easy is it for them to read or to get access to, right? Is it online? Then they might never click it. They sign that they did, but they might not look at it. That's actually less friction, right? Or do you send them a huge document this big? Now they're going to read it. You send me a huge document of legalese. Now I'm going to read it.
I've done both of those. Yeah.
Ayula, you're like, whatever. I don't give a fuck. Oh, sorry. So we shoot ourselves in the foot. I'm not saying that's why they all go that long. Yeah, we all know the ones that just go back and forth, but we got to do everything we can to make it as easy as possible to do business with us.
I don't disagree. I do think that's a critical part is be the type of service provider that you would love to do business with. And that makes that a big consideration is the ease. The joke we always made when I was in the cloud services days was you hold the pen, I'll move the paper, right? When it comes to signing the contract, right? I don't care what I got to do. I'm going to help you close this deal so we can get past the sales process and into,
implementation.
Yeah. But I will also say, like, a big part of this is just knowing who your customer is and the pains they deal with, right? Like, they'll put up with a crap ton of friction in the buying process if the pain or the value or the need is so undeniably great. But that's one of the challenges you have when you're making those first touches with the prospect. If you're waiting for critical mass and you're banking on critical mass being the reality of every prospect you talk to, that's a needle in the haystack. You just happen to call them when they're evaluating IT providers. How gosh darn lucky are you?
Yeah, we have one of those, just good timing on a phone call. Great.
Yeah,
I can't scale with that. Can't
You'll
scale
have
with
them.
that. Right. Yeah.
That's actually, you made a comment earlier, Ron, about dropping corn on the hook over the side. And yeah, you might catch a fish. That's actually one thing that really sucks for guys like Robert and I who are working with MSPs every day is they might catch something off shitty bait sometimes.
Yep.
And then they're like, it worked once. I'm going to double down on this thing that's not. And we're like, wait. Yeah, a blind dog will find a bone every now and again.
Yeah.
You might have something of success. It doesn't mean you're doing it right necessarily. I don't know, Robert, if you've ever.
No. Or the bait was so good in that lake for a while, but then they stopped eating that bait that way. So now you have to, what's another way for the fish to bite? That's how I think that happens. It's like anything, a change cycle.
All right, gentlemen, we are at 45 minutes past the hour. And Robert, I know you've got a hard stop coming up here fairly shortly. We're going to be wrapping up really soon. But Ron, Jeff, we're so thrilled that you're here. Do you have any other thoughts or comments? And maybe this might be just setting us up for next Wednesday. That's like burning in the back of your brain. And I'll take notes.
Well, I just have a final comment on this, which is as people might be exploring doing social media, doing this, doing that, or the other thing, don't forget the tools you already have. Leverage your relationships, leverage your partnerships, leverage your existing clients. Don't keep chasing new when you've got stuff right here that you can farm.
Farming and hunting. There's your topic. Hunters and farmers, because I realized that myself, that I went out and I did a lot of hunting. And I use this analogy all the time in the office. And I said, you better not let that meat rot, because you could make great things with it. Or if you just bring it here and it sits, then we have nothing. And we want to live long. So if I bring lots and lots of meat, you got to be able to process it. So yeah, farming and hunting.
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. If you guys are players, you'll know what I'm talking about with your meat rotten. You got to get it. You got to get it smoked.
Jeff, you play Kingdom Come?
Smoke it.
We're gonna have another conversation another time.
Awesome.
I thought I liked RPGs until I tried to pick up the first one, and I could never get past the combat system. I was like, "This is
number 2. It's easy. 2 is easy."
All right, that's good to hear. All right, I think we got a great, starting point for next Wednesday: hunting versus farming. Sam, I see you in the comments. We missed you as our producer this week. Hopefully we'll get you back next week. Thanks for hanging out with us. And if you're watching this recording back later, drop a comment. Let us know what you'd like to see on a future episode of The Water Cooler. And maybe it's a question you have for Robert and I to tackle, a comment, an observation. But we're so thrilled that you're here. I'm going to end the stream, and we'll catch you all next time.
Robert, I'll see you next week or this week.